Hi, everyone, and welcome back to the Smart Park podcast by Aquatic Development Group. I'm your host, Julie Klein, and today we are back with a part 2 episode, Designing for Success, featuring our guest, Ryan G. Snyder, ADG's Director of Planning and Product Development. Thanks so much for coming back, Ryan. We're excited to dive back into this topic.
I'm super excited to be here today, Julie. So let's go.
Excellent. So we kind of left off on talking about centralized hubs, and we went through smart placemaking. So I kind of thought a good tie-in to continue that discussion would be expansion. Can you kind of recap what the hub creation really is and what that means for a park operator?
Yeah, so hub creation is a great way to be able to set up park planning in a way that is actually working in conjunction with reducing capital costs. So instead of, say, in a traditional outdoor water park that may have anywhere from 6, 8, or even 13 different locations for different electrical, water, and sanitary backwash needs for those types of pools and slide experiences, we can centralize those within 2 or 3 different hubs where we're bringing all of those utilities together and being able to effectively use our capital dollars to minimize the amount of expenses to create those hubs. And from those hubs, we can, through smart planning and placemaking, we can set up opportunities for future expansion. So there may be a new pool zone for a surfing experience in an area where initially when the park is opening, that experience may not be there, or an expansion off of a hub in a different zone where there may be slide functions that are going to happen, or a new type of wave pool experience, or a fast river as opposed to the traditional lazy river. Those type of experiences can be pre-thought out and pre-planned within the water park space.
I was going to comment on, a simple explanation of planning for expansion that kind of makes me think is, how many times have you gone to a water park and you can see that capped slide hole? I know that's probably not the right technical term, but you can always see that because that's the park planning ahead for, I'm going to add a slide next season. Let me already make this hole so that I can add that in when I'm ready.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's critical in an indoor water park expansion, right? Is to be able to future-proof yourself for expansion and your capacity. So as the park becomes more and more popular and more people are going to that resort, you do have an ability to expand through the use of a new slide, right? So we may even hold off a feature slide for year 2 or 3 or 4 and be able to bring those in later on. But we've already done all the hard work, right? We've set up the internal structure to make sure that we can easily put in these slide supports in the fiberglass. There's perhaps already the landing pool is already built by us, ready to accept that landing pool. The slide tower is already designed for it. The queuing to the slides are set up for it. And similarly, in an outdoor water park, we often do the same thing. We will set up a slide complex that already has an ability to place a new type of fiberglass experience off of that tower that's there from day one. But initially, the guests don't necessarily know it because there isn't a built-in wall there with a piece of fiberglass that's sticking through, right? But that thought process is already there, even in big investment items like a water slide complex. Because if you don't think about them properly in the beginning, the size of the stairway, the queuing, whether it's on tower or at the base of the water slide, those will make or break a facility. And too often you will hear complaints about a big investment like a water slide complex that wasn't thought through enough by either the vendor or the planner that was involved. And therefore, the owner, when they start to operate the facility, is faced with a lot of challenges. So again, thoughtful planning to avoid all of that, and especially in items that are big tickets.
Sure. We talked about this actually a little bit with Ray as well in the previous episodes. But one of the thoughts I had was, how do you work on expansions when you're looking at design or renovations? Because a lot of the time, the water park projects we're working on aren't projects from the ground up, right? I mean, how many water park projects are you working on right now that you're looking at? How could I add a feature?
Absolutely, yeah.
And so, what sort of challenges does that then present itself with when you're looking at expansions at existing facilities?
Well, as a designer, in some ways, it's exciting, right? Because it's how can you solve the impossible? But often, and more so, we are seeing expansions being the typical versus a brand new build. As things get more and more expensive, adding new experiences to an existing property or even revisioning an existing property is becoming more the norm, right? So there may be something that was designed many, many years ago. We're working on the largest municipal water park in Colorado right now. We're currently revisioning their entire children's area that's been there for over 30 years at this point, right? So it's due to have a new life and new experience, and therefore an ability to brand and market that park in a different way. And so it wasn't finding new land. It was, how do we make the existing land become more profitable and more enjoyable for the year 2026, 2030, et cetera.
Sure. It is pretty neat when you can re-envision a space and look at it with a whole new lens. How can you transform something that was and that's already existing into a new space? So very cool that the creative team can do things like that. Let's talk about some of the trends that you're seeing. We're already talking about expansions, renovations based on existing parks, but when you're looking at these new state-of-the-art water park builds, what are some of the main things you're seeing or key trends that you see on the market today?
Yeah, so some trends that are picking up, and I would consider them a trend that will probably end up being lasting trends, are the embracing of technology. So digital screens within indoor and outdoor water parks and surf parks are becoming more the norm, right? They give ability for the property to have branding, to be able to do things like swim-in experiences or dive-in movies, in the wave pool, or being able to highlight, a surf pool or deep water surfing attraction, and being able to have people connect with that surfer in a different way that can only be experienced really maybe even by the surfer itself, right? I would say things like that, the norm of embracing the fact that all of our guests have devices that they're walking around with, right? So Wi-Fi and different integration of the IDF type of systems within a park and a resort is of the norm at this point in time. Photo passes, right? So those are a level of technology that can help drive the ROI as well.
You kind of brought up the surf piece of trends in the industry. I think that we're more and more hearing about the sport of surf being incorporated into a recreational venue. Gone are the days of having to paddle out and wait in the ocean. There is still plenty of that core demographic that is doing that, but we're now finding spaces where surf can be accessible to the masses. Can you kind of talk about, I know any surfer that is listening right now probably hates that I'm going to make a comparison here, but I do think that there's clearly findings that the water park industry has learned over the many decades of design and functionality of a space. What are some of your key things that you would advise to surf park developers, and how is there some overlap there between the two industries?
Yeah, sure, absolutely. And there is a direct correlation between the two. Within the facility itself, often I do fear that surf parks are so heavily focused on the main surfing attraction within the space, and they're not also setting up the ability to design in affordable flex spaces that can adapt to the changing times, right? So there may be other types of functions that will serve the business of surf in a way that is more than just a small hut with a few retail, t-shirts and boards, but it may be a new creative way of doing retail in the future that we're not doing today. Or there may be other types of experiences that may be similar lifestyle experiences, like embracing the wellness industry in a way that is not the traditional North American spa, but being able to bring in different types of pools that supplement that area for healthy living, and even give an opportunity for the surfers themselves to be able to, say, cool down while they're surfing or whatever the function may be. But I think embracing those types of additive spaces or setting up the opportunities as that business grows to be able to provide that as a solution in the near future.
I love that. I mean, I think that balance of having that core anchor is obviously key of this is my driver. People are coming here because of the surf, but what are all those ancillary experiences for revenue generation, but also for the little ones, right? Mom and dad might not want little Joe out on the wave, but if you had some sort of attraction experience programmed in, it gives a longer length of stay and a better guest experience.
Yeah, absolutely. And embracing the fact that there could very well be different age groups does allow you to expand your client base. And so it may not work in every situation, right? You may have something that's specifically designed to be, say, 21 and up or 18 and up. However, the reality is, in long-term affordability of any facility, being able to have flexibility, even if it's at different hours of the day or different days of the week, that you have family time versus it being more adult-centric. Those are opportunities that I think will provide longevity to any facility as they continue to grow.
And even you bring up a good point with like night programming, looking at lighting and how do those spaces function? Are you opening the whole park? Are you gating off an area? All of that is things that we've learned from the years of the water park industry as to how do you activate certain spaces and plan for that program ahead of time.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of shifting a hair, you mentioned wellness. I am interested to just kind of hear when you look at trends. It does seem to be a hot topic on the market. What are you seeing the correlation in wellness and designing those spaces as well?
Sure. So I think wellness is a global trend that is continuing to expand year after year. And when I say that, what I really mean is when COVID happened, I think there was this reset, both culturally and then in the individual within North America, right? So we were all forced to take a break, right? And be outside and spend time differently than maybe we've been doing as we have been in the past. And so it opened up the doors to some of the lifestyle choices that happen elsewhere in the world, primarily out of Europe. And therefore, there really has been an upward growth explosion that's clearly happening within North America, within wellness itself. So what does that mean? So the wellness industry can be different things for different types of properties, but for the American base, it is different than the locker room spa experience, right? It is embracing water and water in a way that it's not within a closed room. So having different temperature pools that are outside, coupling them with other types of resort experiences. And as the example we just used with, say, a surfing experience, there is this relationship of lifestyle that is there, right? Healthiness, coupling wellness with increased quality food, right? So that is also a trend that's happening within the water park industry, is that the quality food is going up. It is not just the old chicken fingers that we had in 1988 that I had as a kid, right?
Good, right?
Which was really great back then. But at the same time, look, I would really like to enjoy a really good taco, right?
Sure.
And those type of options for food and beverage are happening in the facilities that are embracing those, are finding length of stays increasing, the spend on the food is increasing. They potentially might be charging a little bit more for that food, but the feedback on TripAdvisor and those type of things are going up and up. So the decision makers are saying, you know what, I had a great time. I might have even spent a little bit more than I expected, but I will go back and I'm going to tell my friends about it.
I love that. It's kind of funny you bring up tacos. We're derailing, but when I think of tacos in a water setting, the first thing that comes to mind is Columbus Zoo and Zambezi Bay Water Park. And honestly, I know it's a small thing and people are probably like, oh, why are you bringing that up right now? But honestly, that stood out to me. I came home and I was like, wow, I actually got a decent meal while I was at a water park. And those little things do make absolutely a difference. You don't feel bogged down by the greasy pizza. You actually got something that you're like, okay, cool. I would go back there and eat that again. So that stuck in my brain for years and years since I've last been there. So shifting back to the water park space and looking at trends and rides. We talked about trends in technology, trends in better guest experience with food and beverage, but can you kind of talk about some of the trends you're seeing in the water park space? I know there's a game that is always played on the marketability side of, can I have the tallest? Can I have the world's wackiest water slide? But kind of talk through what you're seeing and how you balance that bigger, better slide war kind of challenge out there.
Yeah, well, you actually said it right there. I believe the last 20 years of this millennia was really about the slide wars, right? The bigger, better of those types of water attractions. However, as we move forward into a more expensive world, right, where real estate is expensive, energy is expensive, labor is also very costly and continuing to increase, that those types of options do come with them, some negatives at times. So there are opportunities that I think is really an ongoing trend of what can I do in the same footprint that reduces my staffing, reduces the energy costs, provides perhaps other opportunities for revenue generation within that space. And I do believe that in those situations and examples that I could probably give a few examples of that we were involved in, really do end up creating great opportunities for that property that they normally would not have had otherwise. And in fact, I think they other than the big bang, right, and the cool water slide, which is fun, I mean, no doubt, right? But being able to create other opportunities for those users to be able to have an experience that's a little bit different than just riding the slide does have benefits in the long term. So some of the examples, right, of other types of alternate water attractions really are things like action rivers, right, where we're not planning in the same lazy river that we've had for the last 20, 25, 30 years, but we're creating adventure experiences within a water experience like an action river that provides a little bit of a bigger bang, that's a little bit more attractive to a larger demographic within that property. And it comes at a much lower cost than investing in a large slide complex within the same footprint.
I think that's such a good point. And I also think looking at your demographic of who you're actually hitting within your park, sometimes you look at a water park that has all of the largest water slides out there, but are you missing a good kids area? I do feel like we continue to hear year after year, it's like, I had to revamp my kids area. What can I do differently there? So I think bigger isn't always better. There's ways to really maximize your play value.
Absolutely. And what is old is new again, too. I mean, that really is a thing, right? So, the retro design is not just in clothing, right, in graphics that can happen within our society, but within park planning. In some cases, things that we've done in the past are actually really cool, and we're doing them repeatedly now. And those could be, leaping platforms or jump pools, like we did at Okana, right? Something I did at Action Park way back in the day in New Jersey, right? And it was one of my best memories. Now I can do that as a repeated experience in a brand new facility.
It's almost nostalgic.
Very nostalgic. In the example of the kids areas that you brought up, Julie, kids areas are being heavily looked at today, with their large outdoor facilities, resort properties, or in some cases, older indoor water parks. So what does that really mean? I think for us, there's a lot of opportunities as to what old is new is to be brought back into the kids areas where there was a lot of thinking in the last 15, 20 years that was a little cobbled together and a little kitschy as far as the design solutions within the indoor kids space, but properly thinking about them in a way that reduces the lifeguarding. That placement of freestanding water slides within a shallow play pool actually can reduce staff, can create a lot of opportunity for fun that are low investment items to do within the space itself, and open up a lot of doors to be able to do additional renovations or apply those dollars to other places in the property and still get an upgraded kids experience.
I love that. Wrapping up the kids area, that was super helpful and some really good insight there, Ryan. Now, just as some final words of wisdom, advice for somebody looking to design a water park, what would be some advice that you would give this person or company?
Sure, whether it's a designer or the person pushing the designer, stop. Just think of it like a kid, right? We're the mind's eye of your guest. What the moms think matters, right? They want to be able to have ease. They want to feel safe. They want to have repeatable experience. And so if we can think about those individuals traveling through your property, again, whether it's an outdoor water park, indoor or resort setting, surf park, it really doesn't matter to me. It's really the same formula of stopping. It's not about you, it's about them. And if we can provide solutions that embrace their needs and their experiences, where they leave with positive memories, because we are in the business of making memories here, right? So we want to make sure those memories are good ones and that they're repeatable. And if they're repeatable, then they're profitable. And so that helps all of us. And also, it's not just about the guests. We want to make sure that from an operational perspective, that your staff feels good about coming to work every day, that it's easy to be able to function. It's easy for them to park. It's easy for them to check into their staffing areas, to be able to bring the trash in and out of the property, to be able to get, to their staff positions within the park itself. Or from, the management perspective, that's you have a park that is fun, it's easy to maintain. We've reduced the amount of expensive consumable conditions within the park. And all of those things end up with happy customers, right? And so if we can do that, we've done our job.
I love that. Boiled down to 3 words: fun, safe, profitable. Perfect way to sum it up. Ryan, this has been such an insightful conversation. Thank you so much for joining us today.
I'm glad to be here, and we'll happily come back anytime you like.
Excellent. So just to wrap up, from the importance of flow and smart placemaking to the impact of small details and long-term planning, I think our listeners all walk away with a new appreciation for how good design is the foundation for both happy guests and healthy bottom lines. If you'd like to learn more, visit us at aquaticgroup.com and be sure to follow the Smart Park podcast for more conversations like this. Thank you all for listening, and we'll see you next time.